Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and to the Wednesday follow-up video to the job of cutting those internal keyways with the Mori vertical slaughter. So there were a lot of great questions and comments, so let's just dive right into them because that's what the Wednesday follow-up videos are all about. Okay, so first question, excellent job. If a guy didn't have a vertical shaper, could that job be done on a horizontal shaper? And if so, what would be the advantage to doing it vertical or horizontal? So yeah, you could absolutely do it horizontally. The only advantage that I really see is the rigid mounting. Being vertical, you clamp it right to the table. Horizontal, you're setting it up with all kinds of different fixturing and bracketing and everything just to keep that thing from moving on you as it strokes. So that's the advantage. Not many of these vertical slaughters out there, but those of us that have them absolutely love the things. How much do just one of the sprockets weigh? Looks like a lot of gravity in one of them. I don't know what they weigh. I'm gonna guess they're right around 150, somewhere in there. They're heavy. They're very heavy. Yes, a lot of gravity. Are you still running transmission fluid? Have you ever tried dark threading oil? Yes, I'm still running ATF, and the reason for that was the high detergent. Mostly for the horizontal mill, but I had a lot extra, so I set it up on here, and that high detergent has been flushing stuff out of the machine, which is great, getting some of that crud out of there, getting it cleaned up. But I do have some actually sulfurized oil coming for this machine to change it over, and then I'll take that transmission fluid, run it through a filter, and put it over into the horizontal because that really does need the flushing. A lot more than this does. With the shrink fit, does it really need a keyway? How much torque are they putting through these? Also, when these are worn out, do they just replace both the sprocket and shaft or cut the sprocket off? So yes, the reason behind the shrink fit and the key is, so the driven ones, the longer shafts that I make, which I don't know if we've done the video on that yet. I don't think so. I have to look. Anyway, the longer shafts that I make for these are the driven ones. They're drive, they're powered. And the short ones, the short shafts, are the idlers. But they want keys in all of them because if you need to just swap, let's say you break a idler shaft or however, and you don't have a, let's say you need a drive shaft. Okay, let's rephrase this. You need a drive shaft, but you only have sprockets for idlers that are not keyed. That's where the problem comes in. So they want them all keyed, but with the shrink fit also, because the problem they've seen over the years is them walking off the shaft. Anything less than that 3/1000ths and they'll walk right off that shaft. There's so much load on these things. And yes, they do replace the shaft and the sprocket all at one time. There's just not enough. It's not worth it to try to replace it. And as far as I know, they replace the bearings too, so there's no confusion of what they have. What are the sprockets for? That machine running is hypnotic, LOL. Almost had to a post-breakfast nap. It is fun. It is very relaxing. Running it, listening to it, it's a very fun machine. As for what they're for, they are for a conveyor of a sort, but I can't disclose much more than that. Is there a stop if you were using the power feed? Yes, you can set up stops to kick out the power feed, and then you just hand dial it in that last little bit, because you're never going to get them mechanical stops exactly dead nuts perfect each time. So yes, it'll kick out the feed, but then you just finish it off. Do you ever worry about tapping that sprocket with the steel hammer while the test indicator is touching it? I was always told it's bad for the indicator, Newton's cradle kind of thing. No, I don't worry about it at all, because I'm hitting it with such a tiny little hammer, and that's such a big sprocket. I'm hardly moving the thing. I've tried brass, I've tried lead, I've tried poly, dead blows, and the steel hammer is the absolute best way to do it because you can just tap it a little bit and it'll move it a half a thou if you need. Them plastic hammers, any of that stuff, you really got to hit it, and then sometimes you hit it too hard. So the steel hammer has been the absolute best answer for that. I've been doing these for quite a few years, and that's the best way I've found. Otherwise, you're just fighting it. Love watching this machine cut on the feed box. Once you remove it, is the machine usable until you fix and reinstall it? So yes, it will still be usable. The reason I haven't taken it off yet to do anything is because I have too many other things going that take priority. As this is no longer a working shop, this is more a hobby shop and I'm just doing little jobs on the side, does not become a priority. Getting the other stuff done, getting paying jobs that are coming in done, and focusing on the new career is the priority. So eventually, yes, the feed box will come off. Eventually, yes, it will get rebuilt. I don't know when. We'll see what the year brings. Too many other things in the way. Too much more important things, because as it is, the machine is totally usable with it on there. With it not working, it'll be usable with it off of there, so I just don't need to take the time to take it off until I'm ready. How could that keyway be cut if you didn't have that machine? Lots of different ways. You could probably broach it, and that would be a pain in the ass. EDM, which would be extremely expensive. There's other ways, but horizontal shaper, a planer. I've heard of guys using planers, but this is by far the best way I've found to do this stuff. And actually, I used to do a real lot of keyways with this thing back when I was full-time in here and had customers that were still in business. Now I just have a couple and we do some, so it's kind of fun. All right, here's one that I knew was going to come up and get asked. So, is the interrupted cut problem because of a difference in material between the sprocket and hub, or is there actually a gap between the layers? So, yes, there are three different pieces of material there. There's the center, the sprocket, and there's the two hubs. And the center is a different material than the outer two, but there is also, when you lay a piece on top of another piece and weld it, there's still a gap there. It may be so minute, but it's an interrupted cut. It's not a solid piece of steel that you're cutting through. It is a physical break in the material. That is an interrupted cut. So that is what I was referring to there. How long did it take to cut one keyway? And maybe a more positive message in your theme music would be too stubborn to quit rather than too dumb. All right, well, let's address the first part. How long did it take to cut a keyway? I've got these down to where they take me about 10 minutes to set up properly, sometimes a little more, not much, and then about 10 to 12 minutes to cut the keyway. They go pretty quick with this thing. I know that'll be a question that is going to come here a little later. Somebody asked about, said this was the perfect EDM job. It's not. EDM takes a lot longer. Yeah, EDM does a nice job, a very nice job, but it's a lot more expensive and a lot more time consuming than this. And that's why I get these jobs, is because EDM is extremely costly in comparison to what I charge my hourly rate, and a little extra for the tooling and whatnot, but I'm coming out really good on these things, and it's still cheaper than EDM. And then, too stubborn to quit rather than too dumb. No, I'm really too dumb to quit. I should have quit years ago, and I just didn't listen to everybody around me. I didn't watch the signs. That was me being stupid. So yes, I am too dumb to quit. I should have quit years ago, but it just, too dumb, just plain too dumb. Made a lot of dumb choices in my life, and this business was definitely one of them. Too dumb. All right, this one is about the work holding. When you are cutting keyways like that, do the clamps holding the piece down have to be in line with where the keyway is getting cut in order to better control piece movement and the forces being applied, or for something this size, it makes no difference due to the support you have underneath the piece? Also, did you ever have clients that also requested the parts be cleaned of any lubricating oil afterwards, or have you ever had to change out the lubrication oil you used and use something different based on where the part was going to be used later to prevent any cross-contamination at the end installation? Wow, a lot there. Okay, so as far as the clamping, what I found on the vertical slaughter here is you get a good solid base under there, tighten her down good to where it can't move. I haven't had any issues. We did have one video a while back where one of my cutters broke, rolled up, and kicked the whole part forward. And a lot of people were telling me because it did that because I clamped it wrong. it kicked it forward and saved everything because I clamp it the way I did. So there is a method to all the madness, but basically the more you clamp something like this, if there is a catastrophic failure, where is that energy going to go? What is it going to break? You got to look at it that way. But the rigidity, you know, something like that, it's good and flat, it's solid on the table, you clamp it down to where it's not going to move, you're usually fine. There's not a lot of force outward, it's more straight down with this thing. And you're not taking a big cut, you're taking 2 to 3 thousandths a pass. So you're not really pushing it much out. It's all down, and the more you hold it down, the better. And then, so about parts cleaning and lubricating oils, yeah, I've had to clean parts. So these parts I wipe them down good before I send them out, but we leave the film of oil on it to protect from rust. The application these are for, honestly, I could send them out as filthy as I want. They would be just fine. As in the case of those big tubes that I key, the long tubes, those I try to clean them up a lot better, but I still want to leave a film on there so they don't rust. They get wrapped in a rust preventative paper and all that, and then they go back for, I guess you would call it third ops. So that isn't the finished product. There's a lot more work on those things. So check out those older videos of that job. I've done several over the years of that job in the slaughter playlist. So check those out. But yeah, I do clean. And as far as different lubricants based on cross-contamination and stuff, no, I've never had to worry about it. Generally, we'll just clean them up really well. If it's something, you know, like let's say it's food grade, it gets cleaned really well, but that's stainless, so not too much of an issue there. Let's see, start to finish time to slot the GOG. I think he meant cog. Or gigantic old gear. Well, it's a sprocket, but about 20 to 25 minutes total, setup to finish. They go quick, they really do. There's another question about auto stops, and yes, it does. All right, here's one. Do the keyways have to be cut at the same position on all of the gears? Everybody keeps calling these a gear. They're a sprocket. And no, the position of the keyway does not matter at all. But I like to line it up with one tooth just so I know they're all the same. To me, it looks more professional, but no, it is not required. They're very loose on the tolerance, except for that shrink fit on the bore. So we had a few questions about why the video did not show up in your suggestions and stuff, and I'm trying a little experiment where I turned off the notifications to subscribers just on the last couple of videos, just to kind of see what the actual organic reach of my videos are, to determine really what the future is. Obviously, I've got a pretty decent fan base, but I wanted to see how YouTube was suggesting the videos and putting them out there for everybody. And by turning off the notifications, many of you mentioned that you weren't getting them. This is why. I'm running this little test, and the organic views, so what are being found by the browse feature or suggested videos, not by the subscription feed, is actually, it starts out the first couple hours a little bit low, below average, and then it just takes off like this, goes right through average and blows on through. So I think the test, the theory really did work out well, proved itself. I'm probably going to turn that back on in the next video, or maybe one after that. Probably after that, just to see how it goes in the long run, but that's why that is. And then we had another question, and this one is a little bit interesting, a little bit funny, but somebody suggested I name the slaughter. I thought about it, I had a few thoughts, and let's just look this machine over and get some ideas. What could we name this thing? Suiting name. I'm thinking Ron Jeremy. What do you think about that, Mr. Slaughter? I think he approves. Well, I hope I answered everybody's questions. As I said in this video, check out the Slaughter playlist. There's some pretty good videos with this machine. They're a very unique piece. There's not many of them out there in existence. As far as a Mori vertical slaughter, I know of 3 and I own one. And a friend of mine owns one in Arizona, and then Adam Booth had come across one at another shop somewhere, I think in the Southwest. So I know of 3 of them in the wild working, including my own. And then I do know of several that are for sale. Pratt & Whitney made vertical slaughters as well. And I do know of a few of those around. And then Rockford made some big ones, very big ones. Like I've seen up to a 4-foot stroke. So this is only a 12-inch stroke. Imagine 4 feet of stroke. That's quite a machine. So that could do some pretty cool long splines, keyways. You know, you could do a lot of neat stuff with that. So not many of these out there though. So it's definitely one piece that I really enjoy running, and I hope you enjoyed the video on Saturday and got all your answers to your questions. And like I said, check out the older content, a lot of great stuff there. Stay tuned, good stuff coming. And until next time, get out in your shop and get it done right the first time.
Too dumb to quit, too proud to cry, still grinding steel under a fading sky. The last machine shop in a frozen hell, just me and a dream I can't seem to sell. Too dumb to quit, too stubborn to die.